Hey everybody, welcome back to the Unsung Podcast. Today I'm joined by Rosabel, a very inspirational lady I crossed paths with on the Find a Guest, Be a Guest page on Facebook, and shared a little bit of her story with me, and here we are. Rosabel, welcome to my little show here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's truly an
So
honor being here.
you've had a long journey to get here we are. Why don't you just tell my listeners a little bit about yourself, and we'll go from there.
All right. Absolutely. Yeah. So, wow, it's been quite of a journey for me. Actually, it all starts. I was born in Colombia, South America. I currently live in Texas, United States, and I was born there about 42 years ago. The daughter of two teachers. Um, and unfortunately, I mean, they were great people, both of them, but I feel like they both came from like dysfunctional families and they kind of got together and then uh my goodness, the product, of course, me. What was interesting though is that I guess everything was kind of going okay until we had there was a setback in my life, in our life as a family. We actually had a housekeeper that actually pretty much emptied our home. I was 4 years old, and she basically emptied out everything, and she took my mom's savings, took everything, and then the joke I always says is, well, I was that bad that not even the thieves will take me because she
Oh,
actually left me outside the house. And so after that, of course, my mother lost her home. They end up getting a divorce. And it's just from that moment on, it's just like moving. I counted moving place to place like every 6 months. So imagine that what kind of what does that do to a child? Um, Life goes. Unfortunately, my dad, during that time, he had a real bad temper and he was being physically abused toward my mother and me somehow, not emotionally, but he had a change of life. I guess he came to find some like faith, uh, like a, I mean, he was raised, Catholic, but then I guess he had some type of experience where he quit drinking, and of course got a lot better. But of course they were divorced. And then when I was 17 years old, for some reason I still don't understand. Apparently, and I say apparently because it was never 100% proof, my mother died by suicide. But it was not proved because there was always the question mark that perhaps could have been a homicide. So 17 years old, the only daughter, and I find myself like my father at the time, he has his own, bottles that he was dealing. By the way, all this story with details, I actually tell it in my new it, book. It's kind of like a memoir that I wrote and actually came out available like a month ago. It's called The Courage to Succeed, a True American Dream. And it talks about all in detail and how after my mom passed away, I have just graduated from high school. I went to live with my mom's older sister for like 3 months. Then I end up going to the North Coast, which is a city called Barranquilla. And I end up living with my grandmother. That was all my maternal family. And that they were not the best, most supportive people in the world. In fact, they were like, somehow they felt that, blaming me for what happened to my mom will be a great thing to do. Um, but I don't know exactly how it happened. I was actually I wanted to be a physician, by the way, since I'm 5 years of age. And so I did the best I could to try to put myself through school, but I perhaps could complete only like a year because there was not the educational system out there is completely different, and there is not a whole lot of opportunities. It's like semi-public, semi-private, and so very expensive. And I couldn't access to any loans or anything because I had nobody who could go sign, so on. So as I'm going through going to med school and going through these difficulties, I was like, I can't do this because I'm not gonna put whatever little money my mother left me into this, and I'm probably not gonna be able to graduate. So One day, as I'm in the class, I'm thinking, well, I was started to tear up, and I look at my mother's picture, and I literally said, guide me because I don't know what I'm going to do. And as I am walking back home, I found this martial arts school on the way, and it kind of caught my attention. I went in, I spoke with the person in charge and kind of told him my story. And he's like, well, I have a little room up here that you can come in and live in here. And I was like, this is a great idea. And he said, I'm not going to charge you anything, but the only thing is you're going to have to train, to become a black belt. And I said, well, it was actually Kung Fu Fam Chuan, um, some type of Kung Fu, right? And so I asked him, how long do you think it will take me to be a black belt? He said, well, about a year. But I don't know, maybe he was just saying that. And what happens is he did not know immediately. That went to my head. I was like, okay, in a year, I'm going to be a black belt, right? So it was a perfect opportunity for me because, okay, I pretty much divorced my mom's side of family. I put in my mind, okay, I have no family, I have nobody. I'm going to do this somehow alone. And so I, start practicing, start doing that. And then I became a black belt. And then in that school, I met amazing people. I met someone who is still my friend today, he's a lawyer, and he helped me out a lot with, paperwork and things I needed to do. And then I also met Annie, who's like was like a sister to me in time. She kind of talked to her parents, and I actually ended up going and living with them and so on. But it's a lot more to it. But I just wanna, because it's a long, long story. And then the opportunity to come to the United States presented itself. I did not seek it; it just happened. I met someone, and I was like, I'm too busy. I'm trying to go to school. This is important to me. And this person is like, well, I want to help you out. Um, I'll help you with school and promise me all these things. I was like, fine, let's see. Let's see if you can even, okay. All right. Try to, because it was very, very difficult, to get a visa and all that. Well, I don't know how he did it. He got everything. He got me like some kind of a 90-day visa where you come in, and then anyway, so we actually got married, and everything was fine. I mean, everything was, and that's a very difficult story. However, that's one of those stories that I don't talk about in the book because I felt like it wasn't. It's kind of like for another book. It's like a book inside a book, a story. But to make the whole story short, 3 years into the marriage, I'm like, okay, I mean, come on, when am I going to go to school? I mean, this is still my desire. She's like, no, you really don't have to, why do you want, no, no, this is important. This is not what you promised. So I put myself through school. But in order to do that, I had to work because he's definitely like, no, I'm not going to give you anything to go to school. And then the government will say, like, well, you guys make too much money to, that's what they say, of course. Everybody makes too much money, right? And so um, I put myself through school. Basically, I work, like start with like a receptionist job. And by the way, keep in mind that English is my second language. I did not, I knew very little when I came here. And so I kind of taught myself. And um, I started working as a receptionist, and next thing there's that community college right in front. So I'm thinking, well, I work, let's say 8 to 5, and then at 5 I go take classes until 11 p.m. So of course, me doing that, imagine, that made the relationship. We grew apart, and then at the 5 year time, we're like, no, this is not gonna go anywhere. And I was still thinking, like, I really want to do this. And by the way, during that time, I fell in love with the nursing profession due to the job that I was doing. After being a receptionist, I ended up being like a stress tech because I was working at cardiology practice. And next thing is like, yeah, this is what I want to do. So end up getting a divorce, and I signed everything back to this person because I don't know, I always had this idea that I don't want anything that I have not worked for, in a sense. Also the whole idea to think, especially me being an immigrant, just someone just to judge me and think, well, she just married him because of the money or whatever. No, that was not never the case. And so I don't know. I felt I was what, 26 at the time, 25 years old. And I said, I can do this. So I met some great people from church. They basically took me in a northern city. I went in, and I put myself through a whole 4 years of bachelor degree towards nursing career. And while I was doing that, I perhaps live a month here, a month with these people. There's like four families who like really took me in and kind of helped me a lot. And then you won't believe this, but there was actually one day I was like, I need, like I was praying, for like an angel, somebody to, and then there was a neighbor of the neighbors, they're already helping me, who is like, yeah, I kind of heard about your story. I'm actually, he's a soldier, was a soldier at the time, and he was getting ready to go to Afghanistan. He said, I don't want to rent my home. All I ask you, you can live there rent free. Just make sure that the lights are on. And I mean, he literally entrusted me with the entire house when he even left me a checkbook, honestly, to make sure that, everything was paid off, for 2 years. So I did that. And while I was living there rent free, I was also saving money because then I was going to school. I was, doing everything I could, working at the cafeteria, watching kids, dogs, you name it. I did a little bit of everything. And so, my goodness, 6 months prior to me graduating, I met the person that's today my husband. And then we got married. It's just about ten years ago. Came to Texas. I have two children. I have a 4-year-old, a 9-year-old. And of course, there's things in between there. But after, of course, I did my bachelor's. Then I did a master's degree and even a postmaster's, where today I'm a nurse practitioner. Like I see patients, I specialize in neurology. And so it's to me still I am amazed, how you can just with determination and a lot of just wanting to, you can definitely reach, you can definitely do things with your life. And also, I don't know if it was stubbornness or perhaps I got that from my mother that I learned from her that, as long as, you have the power, you have the courage within you, you just gotta find it. And so that's kind of like my story in a nutshell. Nothing too, I don't know. I don't know if it's too or not so dramatic. I mean, there's a few other things, like I said, in detail in my book, but that's in a nutshell.
There's nothing just ordinary about that. Let me tell you that. That's a testament right there. You hear all this stuff about. I mean, I watch some news from the States, and we have it up here too. You know, people that immigrate and then they work hard to get what they want, and it's so different from some of the things you hear and all this stuff going on right now. And just, I gotta ask you though, how did with the training with the martial arts, how did that help your mental health? Because I know with me, boxing, it pretty much wiped out my PTSD because you got to be so focused.
Oh my goodness. It just,
You had that happen to your mom, and then you got a black belt in a year. Like, come on, all right?
yes,
Like,
because I was doing it Monday through Sunday.
well,
Monday through Sunday. And there was also a lot of meditation involved in it and a lot of physical fitness. And it was just, it's, you know, I'm glad you mentioned that because I think what has happened to me is that I feel like I've been through so much. Is sometimes I haven't stopped to think, hey, how did this affect me or how didn't? I've been always that person who just like constantly going and just doing things. And now that I think about it, it gave me doing that. It just gave me that resiliency, of just keep on going, keep on going. And I mean, all the things that happened to us in life really, really shaped us in so many ways. Like, for example, um, the fact that I was moving from place to place to place, you know what I think it has done for me? It wasn't a good thing, right, at the time. But what it does for me now, right before I became a provider, working as a nurse, there was a time that I worked in four different departments. And there were some other the nurses like I couldn't do it because you're going from one, and then being able to adapt, to the different circumstances. And so I think that's what it's done for me. Have taught me how to, that, flexibility and resiliency.
for
Yeah.
sure. My parents were um Salvation Army ministers, and they'd get appointments every 2 to 3 years. So from the age of, well, as early as I can remember, age 5 till 17 or 18, I also moved, but it was every 2 years, it was every 3 years. So I think that affected me for a long time. So I was afraid to get close to people
Right.
because as soon as
Definitely.
I'd make good friends or I'd have some friends at school, boom, you're moving to the other side of the other side of the province.
Right.
Um, or the boom, we moved from a province called Newfoundland to Ontario. So it's like you go from a little town of like 30,000 people to 8.1 million. Um, it's helped me, but it's also messed me up because
Right. It
a
gave
lot
me
of times if I
PTSD.
felt a relationship coming on,
Yeah.
I'd be afraid to get close too.
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
So little things affect you.
Yeah, no, I tell you, when it comes to that moving, in fact, some of those places, they were not the best places at all. And one of them I actually describe in the book because it was this shackle literally under a bridge. And then so it was like a curb and cars will go by. And every time a car will go by in such a high speed, it felt like it was gonna fall on top of us, so it's kind of interesting. I laugh at it because maybe humor is what have helped me cope, but my husband says that I wake up in the middle of the night like startled, and like, I'm like, it must be that because I do remember, I was like 9 years old. I was like going to sleep thinking this is it, this is gonna be the last night. I don't know if I'm gonna be here tomorrow. you know so some stuff.
So you also started your own podcast as well.
Yes.
What made you want to do that? And
This has been an amazing journey. Let me tell you why. Because I finished a book that I've been wanting to write since I'm about 16 years of age. And then I was like, how do I bring my story there? How do I share it? And I was like, oh, I do a podcast. And then I started like talking about chapter one, chapter two, because I already had a blog. And then next thing now, you know what's happening? I'm having people reaching out to me to say, hey, I have a story to tell.
yeah.
And now it's like, this is great. Let's talk, because here's the other part of it. Journaling, writing, talking about these things, it's also part of the healing process.
Mhm.
This is what has helped me. Every time that I share my story, what I think it does for other people. You never know who's listening at the other side. And then people feel like, well, you know what? Maybe my life is not so bad. I have also felt that way. Maybe and I'm not saying it in a way that we are to diminish what has happened to us. What I'm saying is to create that kind of a, compassion around us, to be able to understand, to be able to nurture each other, as humans, as we are. It's just part of understanding what we go through in life. That life is not easy. It's not easy for anyone. I mean, we all go through, different phases and whatnot. So, this has been, to me, has been wonderful. It's beautiful. And of course, I always like to talk and to communicate and you never know how you could be helping people just by allowing them to share their story.
It's funny. I had no plans on starting a podcast. It was in the back of my mind, but I'm like, oh man, I got to put my face on there. And I guess I could have did audio only, but still.
Right.
I went on with she's actually a nurse in maybe I think Chicago. She has a small package of pack. It's just called Heart to Heart. Carla, shout out to Carla's inspiration.
Mhm.
And I went on with her, and before we hit the record button, she said, "You know what? Some weeks I only have 5 listeners. I only 5 to 10 listeners." And it sounds kind of cliche, but I said to her, "You know what? If there's one person that listens to your show, that's
Yeah,
me in 2010 at rock bottom, looking off a balcony on a 13th floor of a downtown building, saying, 'Hey, would anyone give a shit if I leaped off here?' And they have a listen to that and they go get some help or talk to someone, that's
absolutely.
invaluable. That's priceless and the same as if it had a million listeners. Um, Mine are kind of hit and miss. Some weeks I get 30, some
Hmm.
weeks there's 100, and then some weeks 500 people in Singapore are downloading my episode. So you never know.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
so it gave, I did that show with her and I'm like, wow, I could do this. And I had a debate with someone a few weeks ago that about PTSD being a life sentence. Like you're never going to heal from it. You can't defeat it. I feel like I have defeated it and just talking to people, every kind of stories, like your story. I talked to a three-time powerlifting world champion who defeated cancer twice. I had a conversation with a blind veteran who is blind because he tried to shoot himself and he did it in the face. And then he went out and instead of just being lazy and crying about it, he taught himself how to code and he made apps for visually impaired people. Like it really makes you take a long, hard look at yourself and like, why am I bitching about a leg cramp in my
Exactly.
leg? Right? It's I love it. I'm so addicted. And I love just meeting people from
Yes.
every corner of the world so far.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I'm really enjoying it. And then just like enjoying yourself doing this. And then like I always say, if you love what you do, then you don't have to work one day in your life, you know?
Yeah, for sure. So do you still have contact with that veteran that gave you the place for 2 years?
Oh yeah. He went to my wedding.
Really?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow,
We still talk. I mean, I have this that I still have I'm in contact with those families. I visit them often. They visit me, we talk, yeah, they're like family to me.
that's
Absolutely.
amazing. I have a close military friend I met in 2010. I used to run a charity kind of thing, just sending over care packages for
Yes.
Canadian soldiers, because they opened up a coffee shop on the base, like a Tim Hortons. And I said, "Are you paying for that over there?" He's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "How much?" And I'm like, "No, you're not going to pay for it anymore." So I made a little Facebook page. It was called Coffee for Our Troops. And in 6 months, we had sent over almost $100,000 worth of coffee.
Wow.
So they had so much of these gift cards that they shared with the Americans and the British guys and all the NATO guys. They got them addicted to this coffee. So this U.S. Marine reached out to me. He's like, "Man, thank you for getting, well, my hips don't thank you for getting me hooked on this Tim Hortons coffee and donuts, but he sent me a U.S. flag and it's in a little case
Yes.
on my shelf downstairs. And when friends come to visit me, especially with all this tariff stuff going on now that I don't even want to
Yes.
get into and I want, but
Yes.
people come, they're like, "Dude, why do you have a U.S. flag on your shelf? You're Canadian. Like, elbows up, man. We're gonna." And then I tell them a story and show them a plaque, and they're like, "Oh, okay. I feel kind of stupid now." But this flag was flown in Iraq for a whole day, and he sent it over
Yes.
to me with his certificate. But you never know who you're gonna meet online,
Absolutely.
you mentioned your book. How long has that been out?
About a month.
About a
About a month.
month.
Yes. And I've been going and doing book signings locally. And I go out there, and if I sell one book, to me, that's success because people approach my table and they want to tell me their story. And I have met some incredible people, and then when you know that you're not doing it, it's not just for the money for selling, or it's just, I mean, it's just amazing. I love it.
Exactly. Oh, I get that more than anything. Me and my daughter, we wrote a book, and
Yeah.
there's months it'll sell one, and
Hmm.
there's 3 months it'll sell zero. But I don't care about that because there's also another guy who he bought a copy of the book because our stories are very similar.
Right.
He's lost 200 pounds. I've lost 180 pounds. He has two kids. He's smartened up for his kids, and now I've got a lifelong friend.
Yes.
Like we text each other every few days, and that's to me what matters. Like impact. I
Right.
don't, if
I
if
don't
it,
know, but I feel like my life is full of joy, because it feels like it's filled with purpose,
yeah.
and there's no money that can buy that.
Well, and I can also tell you're a hard worker, and just hearing your story, I'd love to read your book. I'll pick up a copy.
Thank you.
Just that I had a really good friend of mine I used to work with. He immigrated from uh I don't remember where exactly. Maybe somewhere near Portugal or something like that. But he immigrated here and he had to at the time you had to have enough money to live for 6 months and you had to show that to the government
Right.
before you're even allowed in the country. And we went for coffee one day and we had a chat for about 2 hours and he was so frustrated at the way things were now, like when people just walk in and they're up in a hotel for 6 months, and he's like, "Man, I
Right.
had, I have three kids." He said, "I wasn't even allowed out of the airport until I showed them 6 months worth of income or
Yes.
that, right?" And it's So I admire that side of things too, where you know what I mean?
I couldn't work for an entire year when I first came here. So I was literally depending on that person. And luckily, this wasn't a person that would, imagine if somebody wants to abuse somebody and just because you're depending on whatever the legality of being in a country. And so, but it took me a year to get that work permit. And then I went, as soon as I got it, I went to work. Yeah. Get a driver's license. I couldn't drive.
Yeah.
It's like being in prison. Yeah.
How many I didn't get far enough in to see how many guests you've had on your show yet, but what's been the highlight for you so far? The one show, the
So
one guest that's really hit you hard.
So what well, check this out. Right now, this has been exploded for me like in the next week or so. I got people lining up to get in and I'm just been doing like preliminary visits and stuff because it was going to be my husband was the co-host, but we got super busy because we have children and it was kind of busy to keep on going. But I've been doing episodes, since I started in December. I've never been a week without it because I understand that you have to be consistent.
Mhm.
So the moment, when my husband said, well, I might be able to just to do one episode and like, no, we got to. So then I was like, well, I'm going to start with guesses, and now I'm just recording a lot and really haven't had a chance to look and see, I've just been creating and creating because it's just me literally doing this. But it's amazing because, for example, on X, I've been able to nurture almost 8,000 followers since November. And, just by, commenting and writing and wishing people good vibes and all these things and the same thing. And it's a lot of work because keep in mind, I also have my full-time job, Monday through Friday, which I also help people, and I love my job. So, I mean, how do I do it? I don't know.
A lot
But
of people talk pretty negatively about X, Twitter. I've been on there since 2007. I've met some of the most amazing people on there, and I have a pretty strong community with um, I call it a family chat with like
it
about
is
20 people that have lost, over we call ourselves the 100 pound club. So
right,
it's some of them are like, and if they fall off or they we just go in
right,
there and rant and say, hey man, I had like guy go in and say, hey, I had like 50 wings tonight and like 10 pitchers of beer. And it's almost I'm closer with people on there that I don't know that I am on
right.
like some of the
I
people on
I
Facebook.
haven't had a negative. It's probably one of the best experiences I had on social media
Yeah.
on X. I
Well,
mean,
people talk
yeah,
so much crap about it, but they probably don't use it.
right,
Or they just go in and they're all like, I find if I avoid the trending topics list. I never click
right,
on that.
exactly.
I have
Too
about 50 to 70 muted words just because
right,
like Trump, Trudeau. I don't want to hear
right.
about that stuff because I don't care. Stay
Exactly.
away from it.
Exactly. We gotta focus on us, on our neighbors, regardless of political background. That's the way
Yeah.
I look at it. And that's the other thing, when it comes to me and me immigrating here. I think what helped me is as I came to this country, I never saw myself. I don't. And that's another thing I talk in the book about individuality, and how I never been like to be put like in a box.
Yeah.
Like, well, you're Hispanic, you must be this. No, no, you don't understand. There is a person behind this look behind. There is a individuality there is me. You gotta get to know me. My whole person. So very interesting because as I come here, there's this preconceived idea. And then not only that, but when people would approach me at first, they'll be like, for example, what part of Mexico are you from? Like, well, no, I'm not from Mexico. No problem with that, right? But that's not where I come from. Are you Hindu? No, no, no. Why don't you ask me where you're from? I'll tell you where I'm from. And then, of course, I say Colombia. And then guess what was the first thing they will say? Well, cocaine. We're like, well, not really. Oh, Pablo Escobar. Well, no, so it's always something, and I try to educate people, to get to know you, who you are. And so it helped me a lot, the fact that I am somebody who I interact with people of, all, I don't care. I don't care, your color, your background. I see people. I see human beings. And I think that's what I talk a lot about, success. Success, because I think that's what, if you don't do that, you just, you will isolate yourself. That's the way I look at it.
I remember when I'm pretty old, but I remember when when the internet first came out, I was on Yahoo Chat
Yes,
with
Yahoo. Yeah,
Yahoo Chat, and someone was like, "Oh, they're in Arkansas or maybe Alabama or something,"
right.
and they're like, "Oh, ASL is what they typed back then, the A/S/L." And when I said Canada, they were like, "What? What? You guys you have computers there?
Oh,
You have the internet there in Canada?" And I'm like, "Well, we have one. Today's my turn. So if this conversation goes really well, I'll talk to you in about a month." I have one and we all take turns and we can get out of the igloo long enough after we're done
right.
feeding the penguins maple syrup bacon. It's But yeah, I've had people on here from quite a few Canadians, but I've had people from Texas, Chicago,
Yes.
um, Tanzania, South Africa. There was a little school over there I connected with that I sent over copies of my children's book, and then I
Yeah.
put them in contact with my publisher, and then they started a program called Books for Hope,
Yeah.
where authors can send copies of these school kids that would never get it. And their faces with holding these children's books and activity books, it was like someone just
Amazing.
handed them $1 million. And
Yeah.
that's just a connection that came from starting the book and the podcast. And it's one little thing after another. And I can tell that you feel the same way I do. Just love exploring stories.
Yes.
I was reading on the page that we met on this morning that people complaining about, oh, my host talked 80% of the time. And I feel like they just wanted me on to promote their business, but for me, it's absolutely not like this. That's why I call it unsung, unscripted,
Yeah. Yeah.
un unedited. Like I barely edit these things at all. It's just a
Exactly.
conversation. I love it.
I
So,
am the same way. I barely edit anything. I barely just, it's like that, unscripted. We just talk about what comes to mind, what makes you you, and that's all it takes.
well, like yeah, I'll edit if like something freezes up
Right.
or if my
Few
dog
things.
starts
Yeah.
barking and going at the door, little things like that.
Yes.
I did have a conversation. I was having a conversation with one guest, and she just had never really talked about anything before.
Right.
And she broke down and she's like, "Can you edit that out?" I'm like, "Of course I can."
Yes.
Right. And it's if people don't even want their face on here, I'll put a little picture up or the squiggly lines. It's so cool. I love every second of it. Um,
Totally.
so you have plans for a second book, a sequel? See how it
I don't
goes?
know about a sequel, but for sure, I mean, there's a lot of material to cover. I want to see where this one goes. And in fact, while you were talking about, I don't know if I mentioned this to you earlier, in another conversation, that my first book is actually a children's book that I had. It's called Pepe the Doggy, and I did that about 10, 12 years ago. Just simple book. Um, not for, I mean, it was for sale, but I don't think anybody ever bought one copy. What I did actually is I printed out and I literally took it to hospitals around the country, and I just went to children's hospitals and I handed copies, and that was it. Because I just wanted the kids to be happy. It was about a doggy that I found, and just took pictures with my phone and wrote a little, super, super simple, and that was it.
See, and even then, you don't know. A kid could have
Exactly.
taken that home from the hospital. It could be their favorite book. I mean,
Well, all I remember though was that I did have an email associated with it, and I did get a lot of emails and thank you notes and cards, and people asking me if I was gonna do a sequel of Pepe. Is Pepe?
well,
So like, no, my
funny
life
things,
story.
funny things can happen with books because this one here, I don't know if this will show up my little thing on, but
Yes.
so I
What
wrote this
happened?
little book for parents or anybody with PTSD to be able to relate.
Right.
Um, relate to their kids about it. And this lady in my town, she doesn't have kids, but she's fought some battles with PTSD and demons, and so she picked up a copy. And so I see this amazing book review come up just saying, "Hey, I don't have kids. I read this book. It helped my mind." And so I ended up reaching out to her. She lives about a kilometer, like a mile and a half away from me. And now we've been together for almost 5 months just from this little book. So we always joke and I say, "Hey, you know what? If we ever get married, maybe that Amazon guy can pay for our wedding." So we we met on Amazon. So you never know what can happen when you're already married. So you're not going to meet anyone through your book. It's just the funny little things that can happen
Well,
sometimes.
you meet new people. You can make friends, friends for life. Yeah, you never
So
know.
have you ever been back to visit Colombia like
Oh, yes.
all the time?
Yes. Not all the time, but I went in August about 2 years ago, and in fact, I'm gonna go back in June. Yes. My father still lives there, and I just went and took my family 2 years ago and did like a little tour and showed them. In fact, for the first time, I went to cemetery and stuff like that. It was really painful uh, early on, but I mean, of course, I don't. I had to be honest with you. I had to divorce myself from my mom's side of the family because it was very toxic. It was very. I feel like if I had not done that, I would probably wouldn't be here today because it was very. It's one of those things that they, it wouldn't serve me any good. I mean, which by the way, I did a lot of. It ended up being that I actually that's even again another story, another book because unfortunately in the book, I also talk about how my mother had a great heart. She was such a good lady in so many ways, and unfortunately, her family took advantage of her to the point. And so that was kind of like was end up being the case with me that her younger sister started kind of doing that with me. I mean, like money, 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 send me, give me, pour me, until I'm like, I can't do this. You're not going to this is not going to continue like that. And it's a very difficult one because you're like they make you feel guilty, they make you feel like, they try to make you feel like I don't even know how to begin to express that, but luckily that's not longer a problem because I work through with a counselor on that, and I was able to cut that cycle and feel much better now. Yeah.
So do you still do anything with the martial arts or no?
No, not really. Well, individually, I still do a little bit of qigong, like, and I still know my stuff. But no, I wish, but in what time? I don't have a whole lot of time. My son does taekwondo, so
Oh, nice.
yes, yeah,
My 10-year-old does Muay Thai and I love just going to watch and it's the
yes,
saddest thing. I don't know if you get to go watch them do that, but is you'll see other parents just head down in their phones
mm-hmm.
while their kid is doing their thing. Uh, I keep mine in my pocket unless it's out to take a picture or a video.
Right,
But you can notice, like you can see them, you can see the kids look over and they're just, the hey mom or hey dad, watch this, and they just do something stupid. But when they're doing that, you can see they look over to watch. And then they see their head down. It's like, oh, something must be more important than watching
right.
right now. And it just guts me.
Yeah, it's definitely that's a topic. That's quite of a topic. The phone, the phone. Yeah. I mean, it's unbelievable. I see that in clinical practice. I'm trying to take care of a patient. They're on their phone, and like, okay, I'm like, you have to look at me. Let's have a conversation here. You know, put your phone down for 1 second. Shows some respect, for the person that you're communicating with, for
Yeah.
sure.
And I'm from the old school generation. Like when I go to a concert and I see all the phones up, I'm like, just put it down, enjoy the show. Or like when I can watch a lot of hockey games.
Right,
When I go to sports events, I'll take it out to take a picture, but then I'll put it away. But so many people are too worried about
right.
not enjoying the moment, but just trying to get likes or whatever, or talk about that moment.
But there is something called the FOMO, the fear of missing out.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest things. People think they're going to be missing out because we're living in such a fast pace, environment. And I think that's why also I'm enjoying this podcast very much, because having this conversations, deep conversations, and it's amazing. It amazed me the amount of people that it's almost like they're thirsty to talk to someone.
Yeah.
It's just like, I can't believe it. It's like, okay, it's almost therapeutic,
Well, what's really cool, the thing I like the most, and you might see this as well, when I first started, the first four I put out, it was like, I don't know what to compare it to, trying to sell ice to an ice cream salesman or something. But trying to get people to come on at the first four, we're like,
Hmm.
and now people have started watching them and like, hey, you know what? I'm ready to share my story. Um,
Exactly.
there's a close friend of mine who I've known for years. She used to be almost 350 pounds.
Wow.
And she's now like she's the 150 range. She trains people. Um, she's gonna come on my show with me, and I'm so freaking excited because I'm like, you need to be proud of what you've done,
Yes.
but her thing is, when I post it a lot, people might think I'm gloating or, I'm just looking for attention and I'm like, are you kidding
Mhm.
me? You will inspire the shit out of so many people
Yes.
because when you walk into a gym and you see someone that's so ripped, or like when I was really huge, if I walk in and see a dude with a six pack, I'd be so terrified. But
Right.
they all started somewhere. They all had to walk in that door the first time, possibly. And she said to me, "This is the hardest exercise you'll do at a gym is opening the door."
Right. You know what I talk a lot about in my podcast and in my guests and about the book, this is one of the, my mentality. Um, Everything, whether it's a show, a book, everything has an audience, right? And you're gonna have an audience that loves what you do, and there might be some other one who don't like what you say or whatever. Same thing with me. There might be somebody who likes my book, and there might be somebody who doesn't like my book. And when you're okay with that, that's when, I find myself in that way. I'm okay with it because that is not what's going to stop me from moving forward and for me to telling my story and for other people lose the fear. We're just going to do it. That's the other thing I talked. That's what I named my book, The Courage to Succeed, because it takes courage to leave. It takes courage to wake up every morning. It takes courage even to be who we are, in a world that people can blatantly say, well, I don't like you. Well, that's fine. I'm okay with it. Because as long as you like yourself, as long as you feel that you got what it takes to again to have the courage to leave, then the rest, hey, keep on moving. That's the way I look at it. So it is very nice, especially when you have a friend that you can bring in the show. Because I also will tell you this, as I don't know if this was your experience beginning the podcast at first. You start like, I'm going to start a podcast or I'm going to do this, or, which I didn't talk much about it necessarily. But I have people who are like, oh, good for you. And then I also have people like, are you crazy? Who's going to listen to you or whatever? I'm like, and then you start to learn who was really kind of, and then some of the people get even jealous, because that's reality, we're human. But again, it's about consistency, it's about loving what you do, it's about having passion. And when you find that passion, it seems like you have, and I feel really pumped about this because now that I can not only share my story, but I'm also allowing other people to share their story, to talk about these things. It's just beautiful. Like I said, there's no money cannot buy that.
No, I love it. Just talking with you reminded me of something. For some reason, I was watching one of the debates. I don't know why it was on TV, but someone said the American dream is dead.
Yeah.
And just talking to you, you're the first person I've ever spoken with that's actually lived it. And if anyone feels that way and have watched this, it's alive
Yes.
because
The
look
American
at
dream
you.
lives in you. It
Yeah,
lives in you. It's not determined by a politician, by a president, by it's not determined by that. It lives in you. It's again, it's having the courage. having the idea, whether it's a country, I don't know what it is, but to know that you can go to a place, or whether, again, a place or your home, whatever it is, that you think, you know what, here I can flourish,
Yeah.
here I can become, uh, all the dreams that I have in me can become a reality. That is the dream. That is the dream. That you're able to, not only try, but to know that, no matter what happens, tomorrow, you're gonna be able to tell, what is the legacy you're gonna leave your kids. You're gonna be able to say, hey, you know what, this was me. Even if you feel like you're not gonna make it, just trying is 50% of the battle already. I don't know if I sound a little too, I don't know, cliche or whatever, but there are many days that I wake up and I feel like I'm a millionaire. I feel like that. And I don't have to have a lot. I just feel, because, having, beautiful children, having a husband that supports you, having, a job that you love doing, no matter how hard, no matter if some days you don't want to wake up and you might not want to go to work because you're tired or whatever. But I think that's the beauty of it.
For up here, the Canadian dream is just our favorite hockey team winning the Stanley
Yeah.
Cup. That's my dream or nightmare I've been living for 49 years.
Wow.
I don't really know if there is a Canadian dream. I don't know. Maybe the sing a song with Mike Myers on Saturday Night Live. I don't. But
Right.
it's pretty cool. I have friends from all over the world, and just talking to you, it's been pretty cool. And we'll fire your link in the description, anything you like
Okay.
in there, and your
Okay.
podcast as well. And if there's a message you want to send to anyone listening right now, say someone that went through loss of a loved one, um, that's feeling guilt, feeling blame, anyone out there just, trying to pursue a dream like you are, what's one thing you want to leave people with here?
Wow. Well, I could probably say at least two things. For someone who has lost a loved one, one of the things that helped me through was the fact, I don't know what you believe, but whatever you do, make that loved one proud of you. Just whether you believe they're looking down at you or they have some kind of consciousness of where you are in this universe, just whatever you do, make them proud. And for those who are trying to reach a dream, whatever it is, again, you do have the courage. You have what it takes. And all you have to do is face your fears head on, because as you face your fears head on, then you go through it and you realize there is nothing to be afraid of. That's what I will say.
Beautiful. Excuse me. I got one more question for you that I ask at the end of every episode. Just kind of an icebreaker for some of the heavy talks. Some just at the end every when we go. So 100-meter dash. Okay, it's a pigeon carrying contest. How many pigeons do you think you could carry 100 meters and have in your hands when you cross the finish line?
Dave, no habla inglés.
Hang on. Let me get up the Google Translate.
I don't speak English. How many pigeons? 100. Oh my God. You got me. You got me. What's the answer?
Oh, there is no answer. It's just how many do you think you'd still have in your arms at the
Oh
end
my God.
of a
No,
100-meter?
none.
None?
No, they'll all fly away. I think.
I'm gonna practice my Spanish here. Let's see what happens. Just in case I have any other. All right. Is it Spanish or Colombian? I don't know. What language would they speak in Colombia?
Yeah, it's Spanish. It's
Spanish.
it's
Okay.
pretty much like Castilian Spanish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. ¿Cuántas palomas podrías liver 100 yardas?
Oh wow. ¿Cuántas palomas? Okay. Okay. ¿Cuántas palomas podrías cargar en 100 yardas? ¿Cuántas palomas? Huh. I don't know. Four? Two and
There we
two?
go. My biggest answer was a lady that said she would put double-sided tape on her clothes and just tack the pigeons onto them and then put pigeons in her arm. Her answer was 150.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So yeah, that's
Yeah. For me, I'm more like thinking like, you know what? I don't know if those pigeons will be too comfortable in there. I will let them fly.
perfect. Well, I appreciate you coming on with me.
Thank you so
And
much for
anything
having
you
me
want
in
me to
here.
put in the description, just let me know and we'll
Okay.
go from there.
I'll send you my links and page and thank you everybody for listening.
Perfect.
Keep listening. This is a great podcast. I'm a listener. I love it.
Likewise, then we'll hope send in your traffic. Maybe some of my shout out to my people in Singapore, my top downloaders. Maybe some of them will come your way, but
Yeah.
you have yourself a great day and thanks for joining me on here.
Thank you.